we can look at it. Some people look at training is it's either super serious or super casual. So super casual would be like 5 hours of quick play, you know, every like once a week, and then you're flexing and you're screwing around and playing mystery heroes and never warming up. You have like a rainbow profile playing all the same heroes at the same amount, you know, whatever. And the super serious is like, you know, you're grinding like really hard, you're doing nothing but solo queue, not talking, always joining voice, hard calming, you know, whatever, playing like 5 hours of ranked every day, only one hero, one role, you know, whatever. And then, you know, you have to find where on this spectrum you lie, you know, how serious you are, how casual you are. And I think that's fairly accurate. You know, you do need to find out like how serious you are about the game. For you, you want to be a diamond. So if I were to, you know, slap an arbitrary number, if this is like bronze, silver, like over here, right? So bronze or silver over here, and this is, let's say, grandmaster, or top 500 even, you would fall, because you want to be diamond, probably somewhere right around here, right? Somewhere right around there in terms of how serious you are about the game, right? But what you can do is it's a lot more dynamic than that. It's like three-dimensional, because it's like I don't even know if I can draw. It's like three-dimensional here. You're just gonna have to pardon my horrendous artwork here, because what we actually have is we have a way to make it more than one dimension, because it's not just about how serious or how casual are. You, within that very spectrum, you can choose how deep you want to lean into certain things. For example, what composes a serious player? A lot of solo queue, right? What else composes a serious player?
Someone that is self-reflective, analyzes themselves, and looks at ways to improve.
Right, so let's stop right there. So serious player is self-reflective. The right attitude for improvement. Okay. Solo queue. What are some other things that you have to do if you want to be serious about the game?
You have to play consistently.
Play consistently. What else?
How
many roles?
Usually one, but there are people that are serious on all roles, of course.
But they're not pro at it, are they? Even Overwatch League players aren't pro at it, right? An Overwatch League player will be good or great at all roles, but there is still a role that they specialize in. But one role, generally, right? Few heroes. That might change depending on the meta. Right? So, what about the casual player, right? Not self-reflective, never solo queues, right? Doesn't play consistently, not one role, few heroes. So here's what you can do. This is the really important part. Which one of these boxes do you want to either check completely or at least partially check? Which one do you think that you cannot really consistently do? You just think it's unreasonable or is not what you want to do?
I think I don't necessarily want to be just one role.
Okay, well then that's very easy. So what we do is we just go, okay, this is not what we want, right? So no. Okay. What else?
A few heroes I can check. I can limit myself to 1 to 2 heroes on every role pretty comfortably.
Perfect. Okay. What about your time requirement? It sounds like you're playing a decent amount.
Yeah.
Right. So I think like an average of even just 3 hours per day is good, right? We can do that consistently as well, right?
Yeah.
Solo queue.
You know, I don't necessarily mind doing solo queue. In fact, my DPS, I pretty much play solo queue because I'm a silver DPS. My friends are plat. It's a little bit uncomfortable that way.
Sure. So we'll give it a blue X. So kind of, right? Sort of.
Yeah.
Okay. Self-reflected attitude.
I feel like that one should just kind of always be a check.
Sure. So, you kind of see what we got going for us, right? So even though you're more of a casual player than a serious player, it's actually only one and a half things that you really are can do, right? Everything else is pretty good with that. So let's lean into that right now. Let's construct your training structure. So you already play consistently. You already have a good attitude for it, but we want to limit the heroes. Okay, so then we talk about tank. Tank, what do we want to limit to? Tank is Diva. What's the other tank? Give me one more tank that you enjoy besides Diva.
That is a great question.
If you don't have the answer, that's okay. We could just put in
So
a question mark.
yeah, so I mentioned I think in the forum that I was actually considering leaning more into Ramatra.
Okay.
For my off tank, what I'm really would like is someone that is not as easily countered.
Sure. So let's just put
Because
question mark. Okay.
yeah, as far as tanks I enjoy Winston, I enjoy Reinhardt. Um, I decently enjoy Ramatra. I
Sure.
don't have quite enough time to say that I actually love him
Okay.
yet.
Fair enough. And experiment with it, right? And maybe some metas, some heroes feel really bad, some metas, some heroes feel really good, and that can change. Maybe Diva remains the constant, but this one changes on a month-to-month basis. That's okay, as long as it's not happening on a day-to-day basis, right?
Right.
Okay. What about DPS? What
Ashe is
okay.
Ashe is the main one. I'll also play Symmetra on certain maps. Bastion.
Mm-hmm.
Those are probably the main three that I play.
Can we cut one of those heroes out?
Sure.
Okay. Which one is your favorite between Ashe and Bastion, or your least favorite? The one that you probably don't enjoy playing right now.
Right now it would probably be Bastion would
Okay.
be the less enjoyable of the two.
So Sem, okay, seems reasonable. And then you play support as well, right?
Yes. And those two are on a Kiriko.
Okay. Well, then there you go. And this is already trimmed down from where we were before. Hopefully we'll figure out what we want to do with tank. That's going to make you a lot more efficient with your training time, right? And then being able to play a little less Bastion, and then making sure that we're staying consistently with this. This is a semi-serious hero pool. Better than we were before, right? Okay? So, that's good. The time is fine. We don't need to talk about that. I will say consistency with the time is very important. Better to play for, seriously for 1 to 2 hours than it is to play for 4 or 5 hours and then not play at all. And then the self-reflective attitude. Okay, so this is where we have to kind of tie everything into a nice, tidy little bow, though, because you have the problem of where you play socially, but you also want to have time for your own self-training. So my recommendation is to generally put the first hour or two, let's just put it this way, the specific focused training time, the solo queue. You're working on Diva, you want to improve your rank on Diva, on tank. That goes first whenever you can. And that can be an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever, however long you have. And then everything else, once you're a little bit tired, a little bit distracted, you can just play for fun, play with your friends, right? So with that in mind, what do you think could be a general guideline? This doesn't have to be a tight set structure, right? Obviously, it's going to depend on your friends' availability. It'll differ week to week. But what do you think will be a good general guideline for this for you?
A guideline of like how much time to start out serious?
Sure. How much time to start out serious? Like how many days do you start out? Maybe there's a couple of days where you don't play ranked. Like your problem is that you said 1 day a week you were doing solo queue right now, and that's not enough, right? So what's the low-hanging fruit here? Where do we want to lean into improving here?
So one of the reasons why I'm not doing ranked as much is because I kind of got burned out on Zarya, so I wanted to like take a break until I like had a solid plan.
Okay, sure.
So, I can definitely amp up the time in ranked as long as I feel like I have a plan and I'm not just like helpless. Basically.
Sure, makes sense. So where would you be? I would even undercut. Like don't underestimate your ability. So what do you think is the low ball expectation for you in terms of solo queue?
Solo queue, maybe like 2 to 3 games on any given role for
okay.
Maybe 3 days a week.
2 to 3 per day, and then that's 2 to 3 per week. Let's just say I'm gonna push you to 3 per week.
Okay.
3 per week, and I'm gonna be very specific with that. And I want you to pick the role that you're most serious about improving right now, which I assume is tank.
Correct.
Okay, so then this needs to be your tank. 3 games, 3 times per week is our bare minimum, and that's done first thing. Yeah, so when schedule your time as best as you can to work that. Pick the days where you are able to solo queue initially, and those you need to be your rank days. Full effort, full focus on the stuff that will give you in game, and then we go from there. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Everything else, totally fine. Now, after that, I'm going to be honest with you. This is let me give you a good visual representation of your time playing support or DPS or, right? I don't care. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. When we're talking about you improving, this is where we get it. Everything else is just noise. Now, if a miracle happens and this works out and we're able to get your tank to diamond, okay? And you're like, well, I want to get my DPS up. Well, then DPS replaces this here. You see that? Now the DPS is in here and tank doesn't matter as much, and so on. You are splitting yourself across a lot of roles because that's what works with your social group. I get it. That's totally fine. Just keep in mind that it's going to slow things up a little bit, and so you need to kind of find a way to work around that as best as you possibly can. We don't have to compromise what you enjoy just because you have to get to a certain X rank. The goal of the game is for you to challenge yourself, for you to improve, and for you to have fun, and we need to keep that intact. Does that make sense?
Sounds great.
How does this look as a whole, besides the artistry? Okay. How does it look as a whole, though?
It looks good to me, man.
Okay.